An environmental group is getting set to launch a new campaign to combat climate change called Fossil Fuel Freedom. The group is 350vermont.org. It was started by Vermont author and activist Bill McKibben. The number represents 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the amount some scientists say must be reached for climate change to slow down. Right now, CO2 levels are higher, around 392 parts per million. David Stember is with 350vermont.org. David, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
So first, let's talk about the group. How many members are there in Vermont, and why did you folks start?
350 Vermont is about 3,500 people that are actually kind of show up at various times to various events, but it's really what we call an open source grassroots group that really involves a lot of other groups. So a lot of the other environmental groups, social justice groups kind of come to our events. Last August we had, or September, we had an event at the Statehouse called Moving Planet that was the largest day of rally that had ever been in Vermont on any day, and we had 1,500 people show up at the Statehouse to hear Governor Shumlin and Bernie Sanders talking, and a variety of other speakers, and it was one of the best events that happened really in any city that day across the country. So Vermont stands out, and 350 Vermont really is the group that's focused most exclusively on really saying we need to do more, we need to do it sooner, we need to have a more of a leadership and a more comprehensive response.
Well, I would think you mentioned Senator Sanders, you mentioned Governor Shumlin. Both have been supportive of trying to battle climate change. I would think you have very sympathetic ears here. Why do you think there hasn't been more progress?
I think that part of the problem that we face in the United States is that the conversation has been somewhat hijacked by a lot of the kind of deniers that are across in the media that really stand out really strong and make the message sound like there's a lot of doubt about whether there's a climate change or whether it's man-made. Yet when you look at the global conversation or even you look at science, there's really not much doubt. We see evidence of it every single day, all around us, that climate change is real, it's happening much quicker than anybody anticipated. The tipping points that were predicted to happen, decades, down the road are already, taking place today. And so there's just a sense that more needs to be done, and that Vermont really can be the leader, because we do have Governor Shumlin, we do have Bernie Sanders, and we do have all the other congressional delegates that make it possible for Vermont to really stand out and be the catalyst for change that we need for leadership in this country.
Well, the group is having a big event a week from tomorrow. It's a new campaign. What is the goal?
The goal of the Fossil Fuel Freedom Campaign is really to kind of reframe the conversation. Again, it's not about whether it's real or whether it's not real. It's kind of like we've already had our Pearl Harbor. We've already had President Kennedy stand up and say that we need to achieve, reach the moon in 10 years. We need to be doing much more, much faster. The results that we're seeing today and the impacts we're seeing on climate change today were kind of programmed into our atmosphere, already decades ago. Last year was the record amount of CO2 emissions for any year going forward. So we need to be, by the end of this decade, we need to have turned the ship, the big tanker of our energy usage completely around. And to do that, we need much more strong leadership, much more vocal leadership, much more a sense of urgency, and really a call to heroic action. This is the time when, if we don't act now, we may forever look back on these days and say we missed, the time that we could make a difference. And that's our time on Earth today.
You're talking a lot about what leaders should do. What about people who are listening to this? Is there something simple that you're encouraging, your group 350vermont.org is encouraging Vermonters to do with this new campaign?
Yeah, 350 Vermont is a grassroots organization, and I think that we're seeing, whether it be in Vermont, we see a lot of organizing around healthcare. Healthcare is a human right campaign that the Vermont Workers Center has done. We see organizing, kind of more local organizing in the community level, in the streets with Occupy. And 350 Vermont is really about saying that the solution is for us to come together as people, get out and come together and show up at the events, show up at the Statehouse, show up wherever we have a chance to raise our voice and tell our leaders that we need more. every single one of our elected, officials, governor, all the way up to President Obama, will say, you need to make us take an action. You need to ask us and really call us out to really lead. And that's, I think, the difference between, say, 350 Vermont and someone that might say, just change your light bulbs. Change your light bulbs, but also come out, get involved.
You're calling for greater action on a national level.
Yeah.
Well, David, I want to thank you for coming in. David Stember, the group is 350vermont.org.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.